Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1971 AN. Today's date is September 16th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Central Bank Deep State Economic Plan Blocked? Plenty of Oil. Now, any way you look at it, the 45th president of the U.S. has made a massive impact on the world stage in 3 years he's been in office. Here at home, there have been a few firsts. His ongoing battle to drain the swamp is still being fought. That's a first. And Noble Gold put together their first. Their best-selling Trump 2020 Freedom Solid Silver Coin and United We Stand 10-ounce solid silver bullion bar together in one package at a special discounted price. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and use the code X22Report25 and you'll save $25 on this incredible package. So click the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we know, the central bank, the deep state, they are pushing their agenda like never before because they understand that things are falling apart for them. And this is how you know the patriots are on the winning side, that they are on the offensive and the deep state and the central bankers, they're on the defensive. And you can see it out in the UK because they're trying every trick in the book to stop what is coming. They're defending what they have. But guess what? It's going to fail. Why? The patriots are on the offensive. Boris Johnson tweeted out, "We will leave the EU on October 31st. Deal or no deal." Now, Boris Johnson, he had a meeting with the EU. Now, of course, we know what the establishment wants. They want him to agree to what they want. Boris Johnson, he's sitting there going, listen, I don't really want to agree with you. It's either we come up with some fantastic deal that's going to benefit the people, which the EU is never going to do, or we just leave with no deal. I don't care. This is not a Theresa May show. Boris Johnson is not part of the establishment. He's holding all the cards. He has the people behind him. And he will follow through. Now, we've talked about the manipulation in the gold and silver market. Now, in the beginning, many thought that this was just another conspiracy theory. Well, today we know it's not. It seems more and more conspiracies are becoming the truth, and the mainstream media stories, they're becoming conspiracies. Or just plain old fake stories. Look at the gold and silver market, the precious metals market, where everyone said there's no manipulation going on. Nobody's doing anything. It's your imagination. Well, 3 J.P. Morgan traders charged for massive gold market manipulation. Trading desks at some of the world's largest banks were deeply involved in what the Department of Justice described as a massive multi-year scheme to manipulate the market for precious metals, future contracts, and defraud market participants. There was an indictment that was unsealed. And guess what? The Department of Justice charged Michael Nowak of J.P. Morgan, veteran and former head of its precious metals trading desk, Greg Smith, another trader at JPM's metal desk. Both men were put on leave over the summer as the Department of Justice investigation neared its conclusion. Are you trying to tell me that J.P. Morgan had no clue what was going on? Come on. Remember, these individuals are audited. They watch their entire trading system very, very closely. The only way this was allowed to happen was because it was allowed to happen. And we can see that it's not just J.P. Morgan. There are many other banks that are involved in this. But once again, it is no longer a conspiracy. It is a fact. And believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Wait until the Fed is audited. We're going to see all those conspiracies come true. That's what we're watching right now. And we know that Trump, the Patriots, his administration, they're preparing to make an economic transition. And to do this, there are many things that he needs to accomplish before he can actually transition, while fighting the central bank, while fighting the deep state, where they're trying to crash the economic system before he transitions the economic system. And all those individuals that are dependent on the government, well, they need to become independent. Trump has been doing this. He's been taking millions off of the food stamp system. But he started to realize that it wasn't just the poor that had been on the food stamp system. It was wealthy individuals. Now, all of you are probably saying, wait, what? Yes, millionaires were using food stamps. This is a very big scam. There was a loophole in the food stamp program. This is also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program, or SNAP. And millionaires, or even billionaires, they were able to receive food stamps. So, what was the loophole? Well, before we get to that, first, an estimated 3.1 million to 5 million people currently on food stamps shouldn't be receiving this welfare benefit. Now, the puzzling policy was born out of the 90s welfare reform package, which was designed to streamline efficiency and prevent people from having to reapply for multiple welfare programs. The changes stipulated that anyone receiving assistance from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families welfare program was also eligible for food stamps. Now, of course, this made sense, and it made sense at the time when policymakers were laser focused on reducing the administrative costs of the program and keeping the application process very easy. But now the 90s are way in the past, and the welfare programs have morphed out of control. In particular, the TANF program, TANF. They've been allowed to expand to the point that the mere act of receiving a brochure or calling a toll-free number funded by a TANF program now counts as receiving a benefit from TANF. And since you're receiving a benefit from TANF, citizens automatically are eligible for food stamps without any consideration of assets. This is being done in 36 states. Think about this for a second. All these years, not one individual said, you know something, maybe we should change this rule. Not one. Well, the Trump administration finally looked into it. And they said, well, wait a minute. This is ridiculous. Instead, why don't we just remove this rule here? So what they did was they removed the part where it says if you place a phone call or receive a brochure, you're in the system. Now, all these people can't get food stamps. How much, just by changing this one little rule, how much did Trump save the taxpayers? $10 billion. Unbelievable. Now, we all know that the Fed, they're getting ready to lower rates. But we have to remember optics are very important. We know Trump is going to continually attack the Fed over and over again. This will never end. Actually, the attacks will intensify. He wants to make the Fed completely obsolete. And the Fed is going to go and say, oh, we looked at the indicators, we looked at the numbers, we did all the calculations, and guess what? We can lower the rates now. And Trump, he's continually pushing the Fed to make them lower the rates. And the Fed has to look like they're doing calculations, they're looking at the economy, they're looking at the numbers, even though it's all fake. Once they do this, they will go ahead and they will lower the rates. And we're going to see this. Trump tweeted out the following. Producer prices in China shrank most in 3 years due to China's big devaluation of their currency, coupled with monetary stimulus. Federal Reserve, not watching. Will Fed ever get into the game? Dollar strongest ever. Really bad for exports. No inflation. Highest interest rates. The United States, because of the Federal Reserve, is paying a much higher interest rate than any other competing country. They can't believe how lucky they are that Jay Powell and the Fed don't have a clue. And now, on top of it all, the oil hit. Big interest rate drop. Stimulus. So Trump is saying, listen, Fed, you're worthless. You're wasting our time. You need to lower the rates. You need to start stimulus. Look what just happened in Saudi Arabia. We need a little help here. And don't worry, the Fed is going to do this. But Trump is making sure that everyone knows that the Fed is worthless. And if the economy implodes, guess what? It's their fault. It's all part of the plan. And as we know, over the weekend, Saudi Arabia, the processing plant, they were hit. Now, this was a move to force the economy into a recession or most likely a worldwide collapse. The patriots were already prepared for this. And the Fed is also getting involved, calming the situation down. Now, that's very interesting. The Fed was out there saying, listen, no, don't worry about it. Even though the oil market was hit, there is no sign of recession whatsoever. Think about what just happened. Since Saudi Arabia was hit, the deep state, the mainstream media, wanted the oil prices to spike, which means people would pay more at the pump. Truckers would have to pay more. Airlines would have to pay more. Delivery systems would have to pay more. That means you pay more in the stores. And remember, 70% of GDP is made up of spending. So people would then cut down on spending because fuel prices are higher, and that affects everything. And if fuel prices are higher, we would see people not spending, which means GDP numbers would go down, which means the economy would start to falter. This was their plan. But guess what? Trump blocked this. We even have a U.S. economist at Nomura Securities, which said the rise in oil prices in the wake of the weekend attack on Saudi Arabia oil facilities is likely to be a wash for the U.S. economy. Why? Because the U.S. roughly produces as much oil as it consumes. So Trump did something to completely counteract all of this. He tweeted out the following. Based on the attack on Saudi Arabia, which may have been an impact on oil prices, I have authorized the release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, if needed, in a to-be-determined amount, sufficient to keep the markets well supplied. I have also informed all appropriate agencies to expedite approvals of the oil pipelines currently in the permitting process in Texas and various other states. He went on to say, because we have done so well with energy over the last few years, thank you, Mr. President, we are at a net energy exporter and now the number one energy producer in the world. We don't need Middle Eastern oil and gas, and in fact, have very few tankers there, but will help our allies. Plenty of oil. Think about that. We're energy independent. We don't need the oil in the Middle East, which means we can go ahead and remove ourselves from the petrodollar system. This is all being set up. Trump and the patriots, they're using this. This was part of their plan to remove us from the petrodollar system and to place us on sound money. Think about what Trump had to do and is doing. How to bring manufacturers back to the United States. How to remove the globalist trade deals, which he's been doing. Had to deregulate, which he's doing. Had to change certain trade deals, which he did. Had to create new bilateral trade deals, which he's in the process of doing with many countries. Has to bring individuals on the Federal Reserve who believe in sound money. He's in the process of doing that. He needs the Fed to bring the rates down to zero, to start stimulus. They're in the process of doing that. Needed to sever ties with the petrodollar system by becoming energy sufficient, where we don't need the oil from the Middle Eastern countries. Everything is coming together. The entire deep state central bank plan was blocked. They were trying to shut this system down. They were trying to remove Trump. It didn't work. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.